Okay, we're back. A bit of an explanation about what you're looking at. That is the future governor of the state of Tennessee, Bill Lee. That's in high school circa 1977. We think, yes, he's wearing a dress, but if
he has
we're
great
of that
legs,
era,
by the way.
they're pretty good. They look athletic. That is kind of what you go back to your old yearbook. Don, you probably have one. I know I've got one from Florida.
I do not have one of those, but I could have.
I would love to see you
He
in
got
a
sort of
dress.
pilloried with the photograph because it was also trotted out in conjunction with the bill that they are calling the adult cabaret bill, the drag bill, which he also signed last week, sort of trying to expose him as a hypocrite. A lot of confusion about that bill, and I'm going to be honest with you, I was sitting in and debating in the office about that bill and what it really means. So I'm not convinced we all know. I guess the courts will test it. Real quick, you guys got any thoughts about the adult cabaret bill?
Well, I think what it really did is we have the obscenity law, but some of our district attorneys said that it wasn't totally clear. And so the Pride Festival can happen. You can have people dressed up, and singing like Aretha Franklin and things like that.
Can they read books to school children? I'm not being coy when I ask that question.
Technically, they could. That wouldn't be prohibited in this bill. This bill prohibits it if there is insinuated sexual acts, actual sexual acts, topless, nudity, basically things
just like the obscenity statute we already have.
But it was asked to be. There were some of our attorney generals that asked, our district attorneys that asked it to be clarified, and so that was the purpose of the bill.
Right, directed though towards the LGBTQ community, and that's the problem. We have an obscenity statute. It works.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Is everybody that dresses as drag in the LGBTQ?
No,
community?
absolutely
so
not.
That's why I'm not sure that it's directed toward that. It was directed toward obscenity.
But
it's why I voted for it.
The people to whom it is targeted think it's a complete ban.
Well,
and it's not. I agree as a lawyer.
It's not, no.
It's not. But the problem, I think, with it is, everybody says bringing clarity. It actually, to me, as a lawyer, it makes it muddy as heck. And what it does is, I'm not worried about. And I'll throw my friend under the bus, Sharm Allen, running out prosecuting the gay pride parade. Okay, but I do have a little worry about Unicoi County, and I'm picking that randomly, but some of the more conservative spots in our state, it is a sliding, subjective standard, and I think we just made it more difficult for people to enforce the law, obscenity.
And the governor hasn't signed it yet because there was the House did an amendment to clarify.
He signed it today.
Yeah. Okay.
Or signed it
That was
Thursday.
probably while I was on the road.
Yeah.
You were on the road.
Yeah, it was on Thursday.
It popped up on
That's
Now
today.
it's up to the courts. Susan, you got a question?
I have a question about parties, our political parties in Tennessee. We don't have to register as a Democrat or Republican in Tennessee like many states. There is a bill that would close the primaries and would make us declare. So we'd either vote. Would most likely
make
would
the
be
voter declare.
Democrat. The voter would declare Democrat, Republican, or Independent in some cases, or maybe another party.
Or recognize smaller party.
Smaller
I think
parties.
is what it said.
So is that going to pass? I mean, I personally am opposed to that. I think you should have flexibility, but I'm hearing a lot
I'm
of
a little
talk
surprised
about
at that, but proud of you for saying that.
Well,
I've got a long answer. No.
right.
And we got
No.
about 90 seconds.
Oh,
so.
all right. No, it's not going
I
to
thought it already died in a subcommittee.
Oh, well, it
It's
may
not going.
have.
It'll come
I
through
think
my
that's right.
committee. It's already died in
your
a subcommittee,
committee,
and
I
so
know.
we've pulled it off. But it
In
was
the
in a
House
House
sub.
subcommittee.
Good to know.
But if it comes to my committee, I know the members of my committee that will not pass out.
Good to know.
Rich, as a doctor, first, are you concerned about the gender-affirming care bill that's been passed, particularly for these people, folks that I know there's an exception over the next few years for people that are already in it, and I know there's a lot of mythology and things that aren't true about necessarily what's going on, but to me, I look at it and I'm pretty sure the suicide rate's going to go up. Okay, and so I'm curious as a physician, isn't this a choice really that parents and physicians and psychiatrists and psychologists and professionals versus legislators should be making?
I couldn't agree more. But in Europe, they've already made that decision. In Great Britain, Sweden, which in 1972 was the first country to do this, Finland and France, they've already banned those drugs, except in clinical research protocols where they can be followed. They did it because there's two types of drugs that you use. One are the hormone blockers, and the second group are what we call the gender-affirming drugs. And both in Europe and the United States, these are unapproved drugs. People say follow the science. There is no science. And they have found that these children that are put on those drugs, either in the preteens or early teen years, are having at times severe bone demineralization where they can have x-rays that look like 80-year-old
If you're
women.
talking with your doctor hat, I respect that.
Yeah, and that's what I think what do I think we need to do? That's not what the law says. I think we need to follow the example of what they're doing in Europe, is where we would allow transgenders who want to make that transition to go ahead, but it has to be done in a research setting.
We'll have to leave it there. We appreciate very much having the chance to speak to you. I've got a long list of
I know,
questions
me
I
too.
didn't get to. We also
could do
always
this all
enjoy
day.
talking to you.
We'll
so
be back
you'll be
next week. We'll be back next week. No.
Put a place on your dance cards for us. Okay, we've got one more block coming up, but this is a break time for Inside Tennessee.